Welcome to Electric Evolution with Liz Allan. This podcast explores the transition to net zero and the systems driving real change in how we move, live and power our world. Every week I sit down with the people leading that change, those offering insight, innovation and impact in many ways people don't fully see until they hear their stories. If you're ready for real conversations that inspire action and drive change, please like this video, subscribe to the channel and join us on this journey. And let's cut through the noise and build a better future together. Hi everyone. So on today's episode I have with me Ralf Kernchen from Reserve and Charge, and he's the founder and CEO. So Ralf, thank you ever so much for joining me.
Yeah, thanks Liz. Great to be here today. Looking forward.
So we're going to be attending a variety of events because at the time of recording we are starting to go into event season for the EV sector, aren't we? So, and you will be talking a bit about one of the events you've been to in Europe and things like that. But let's start off by going into a little bit of your background and what kind of brought you to starting up Reserve and Charge.
Yeah, thank you, Liz. Yeah, it's a while ago, basically, when we started thinking about Reserve and Charge, basically. But if you ask me about my background, I'm a tech person. I'm a tech founder. I'm a big believer of making simple and easy experiences for end users. And I just only came to the UK sort of 20 years ago. Basically, fresh from my computer science degree, started working here at the University of Surrey, where also our company is based. Reserve and Charge itself started like 2 years ago, but it has a background which we will talk about. How we got there. So I'm happy to be here. So.
Fantastic. So, and you've also kind of, because you've been involved in this in sort of the tech sector for quite some time, haven't you? You've been involved in sort of app development and things like that for a long time.
Yes.
So was that kind of where you really kind of you stuck at it and you wanted to? That's the area that you wanted to kind of open up and develop.
Yeah. I mean, I was dreaming of helping people again, to have good experiences in different areas. When I was here at university doing my PhD, I was involved in European research projects, different areas, all sorts of different areas, but it always has a software aspect, an application aspect. So I've been working in smart home environments. I've been working in sort of vehicle communication applications, so things like you can imagine, sort of things like how do you optimize car traffic, approaching a traffic light, at what speed to optimally hit the green phase and these kind of things. Yes, and then that was working with big European car manufacturers. Deploying those communication technologies into their cars. It was quite complicated, so big computers in the back of the cars, and then developing those applications and then testing them in big European test beds, basically. So it was great fun for me at the time, and always user-focused, how we can improve their experience, in any formal way. So
sounds great. Honestly, that's yeah, I'm getting to know more and more about kind of where tech people come from and all of the things that they're really interested in. But let's kind of talk about things we're interested in. Let's talk about Reserve and Charge then, and what that's all about. I mean, it kind of says it on the tin, doesn't it? That it says the name on the tin.
Does,
But let's talk about where it when you decided that was the important thing that you wanted to kind of bring into the EV sector.
Yeah, so I mean, obviously over my time I created possibly several solutions, but sort of the striking one we had is an app that we built before COVID, which is called Save a Space, which is a sort of parking reservation service at park and ride car parks. We'll get more to that in a minute. And then based on that experience, we thought, okay, wouldn't it be great for EV drivers to reserve an EV charge point in advance. So reserve and charge, in essence, is a cutting edge. We call it a cutting edge EV charge point demand management platform, which smartly manages EV charge point reservations. And we really want to provide the crucial missing link between the end users and the infrastructure to deliver a really seamless end user charging experience. And we think sort of reservations, will play a crucial part in that one. Because people do planning when they go on journeys, they do plan when they want to go to work, like park and ride car parks, but also like residents, who don't have off-street parking, and they need to charge overnight at some point, and they're reliant on public charging infrastructure. So what better way is there than giving them the assurance to get access to a charge point by being able to make an advance reservation? So reserve and charge essentially empowers those EV users to make charge point reservations in advance, and obviously it's a two-way game. We have charge point operators who want to get their charge points used, and what we want to do is efficiently manage those reservations for the charge point operators and the end users, to optimize their network's usage. So it's a game about demand, end user experience, and bringing those things together and leveraging the synergies you can get from that approach, basically.
So when you're doing something like this, where do you even start? Do you know what I mean? It's kind of like thinking about, how did you start? Do you have to? Because we talked about it a little bit, didn't we? Kind of you've got, you were working on various projects and with Innovate UK and things like that, but how did it develop over time?
Yeah, I mean, generally we start with the end user. We look at, is there's a problem, is there a pain that end users experience? It's the same for parking or for EV charging, basically. So it's a physical space somebody has to get to, to either in the parking industry park their car there, or in the EV industry charge their car, right? And essentially one thing which always came up, the user is not there to sort of, park or charge the car. It's not their purpose. They're on a journey. They want to get to the office, they want to get to a leisure destination, or in the case of more industry relevant use cases like, a lorry driver, they want to get to their destination to deliver a package, or, obviously in a logistic sense. And, and everybody does some level of planning in their mind, basically, on how they're going about the journey. So you use Google to plan the journey, or you check, your office calendar when to go to the office, or you check, when is your train to go to the, to the train station. So there's always a level of planning involved, some more conscious, some less conscious, basically. And that produces a certain level of what I call sort of cognitive overload, or load, at least, not always overload, but load, So, and we want to make it as simple as possible from an end user. So we want to understand their pains, they want to understand their current experiences. And, in the EV industry, sort of pain points are being discussed quite a lot. So we can have a bit of a chat about that one. But yeah, we start from an end user, look at how many people have that problem or reporting certain types of problems, basically. And then we go about looking, what's the opposite side? So what's the problem of the charge point operator, delivering their service to the user, or the user using the infrastructure. And then we're trying to find the synergies between them, and that's how we got to sort of reserve and charge, because there is a need from people who want to reserve charge points, basically. And even if it's not 100% in all the cases, but it's a significant percentage of users who want to do that. So typically we say around 40% of users would be, or not just 40% of users, actually it's 60% of users who want to make reservations, but 40% would be actually willing to pay for them as well. So and that's where it comes from. It feels like, if the user already puts a value on that one, there must be a pain, and there is a desire to get a better or a more suitable experience to what they want to achieve, basically. So yeah.
I suppose
that's where we start, So.
Yeah, I suppose if you've got that so like a lot of the delivery drivers, they've got a route to follow, haven't they? They've got their EV van, and they have to get to all of these different delivery spots, don't they? And they're trying to build in that time to charge as well, because
Yeah.
vans don't always have the same range as a car.
No.
So
No.
so how are you kind of finding that? When is it the fleet manager or somebody who's or fleet coordinator that would book that space, or would it be that driver? I'm assuming it's not the driver, because all they want to do is they just want to think about, if you're working for a business, you just want to get to where you want to get to, don't you?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we don't have a direct fleet solution out there at the moment, but we know that obviously, in the case of the EHGV or light good vehicle sort of sector, it is actually the operator who is quite interested to get the vehicles charged up, and help the drivers to deliver that route or whatever it is, right? So, and then depending on the bigger the sort of delivery, what is it like, pallets of things or size of the lorry, and depending on what goods are loaded on there, they are time sensitive, right? So
Yes. Yeah.
and if you look into that type of industry, you will see that they have already like solutions where they can plan their logistics and dispatches and so on. And I think I just read an article recently, I can't remember where it was from, but those people who have bought like electric lorries, they're currently sort of just planning routes around the depot, basically, so that they can ensure that when the lorry is finished, they can charge it in the depot, because the infrastructure there is not quite there. So, but that's the EHGV sector. ELGV is a bit more, differentiated. I think what we kind of learned speaking to cities is that they want to make sure that fleets get green, that they get that they get net zero basically, and they're providing incentives. I remember speaking to Oxfordshire County Council, specifically Oxford City as well, who run programs for taxi drivers to replace their taxis, but then they need to charge somewhere, right? So, and they just get, if they don't get on the charger they want to, they start driving around, they lose time, they lose business basically. And the same gets for sort of delivery drivers, obviously. Again, it depends what route they have, because maybe some of them can charge in the depot, others more suitable charge on the road, or even overnight at their house, depending what the policies are, right? So
Yeah, and that's really important, isn't it? I mean, with just thinking about it, we're just about to take in a few days' time. We're just about to take our son back to Exeter University for his second year, and we went down there in May, and literally there was, so we went to a charging hub, and I won't say who it was. They are really good, but literally I think there was either 4 or 5 Royal Mail vans turned up to this hub, because they didn't have depot charging.
yeah,
So
yeah,
it's great, because it's great utilisation for the charge point operator. We were kind of, it was funny because like our car was sort of sandwiched between a variety of red vans, but
yeah. I
like you
can
say,
see that one.
they
Yeah,
have to, yeah, they have to kind of work it into their schedule on a daily basis, don't they? These things.
quite right. Yeah, and then need a certain speed, and need a certain size of the space, as you just
Yeah.
said. And so it's important. So I mean, there are various scenarios, obviously, where reservations can kind of help. Everybody can relate to end users and what they want to do, but there are also commercial scenarios like EHGV, ALGV, depot charging. Where you want to have some reliability on access. And I think there's a huge sort of late group, you have to crack in order to deliver the net zero targets that everybody is looking for to deliver, and that these are the people who cannot charge at home. and the government run a big project, a big funding, where the local authorities were applying for a chunk of money to install residential charging infrastructure. But equally, they're asking kind of questions how we can make that usable to the residents, and how can we get an assurance that to even buy an electric car, because they're really concerned. If you ask anyone, it's like, I don't buy an electric car because where do I charge it, basically, overnight. So
yeah, if you've not got a drive, then it does kind of, in certain cases, just make it a little bit trickier, and it's about the affordability of it as well, isn't it?
yeah, it
Making
is.
sure that, because home charging, for us it's 7p per kilowatt hour, so overnight, that is. But actually, so if you haven't got a drive, then it can make it a little bit trickier, unless you've kind of got any of the gully solutions and things like that.
Yeah, all of that helps, right? So it's if you can put your car in front of the pathway, then that works, right? So,
Yeah.
and then I think it's the second big concern that the cities usually come up with when they because the infrastructure is a bit fragmented, really, because there's lots of different CPOs, lots of different kind of locations, and obviously they're chosen for their potential of users turning up there, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, but different locations even sort of demand for different charging speeds. With hubs, you need to have very quick chargers, but if you have an on-street charger, they don't need to all be quick, because you can charge overnight, basically. Or in our case, like the park and ride car park we're working on at the moment in the West Midlands, where a commuter would stay there typically for 12 hours. And that's the time where the car stands somewhere where it can do that charging and be ready when you're kind of back, you know what I mean? So, but yeah, equally, so you need to be able to cater for this fragmented infrastructure. So we thought, instead of sort of providing yet another app, basically our platform, provides, which we would call like APIs, that several different, operators could integrate, EMSPs, CPOs, although we have a parking app, obviously. But Reserve and Charge really is focused on trying to provide a horizontal platform to the market to provide a consistent reservation experience across different CPOs, charge points, speeds, whatever you can think about. So, yeah.
So do you want to talk a little bit about the park and ride? Kind of what you're doing in the West Midlands, and how it's working, who you kind of typical customers would be, because there is a real benefit to knowing, like you just said, knowing that you can stay on a charger for 12 hours while you're working, and able to come back to that car park and know you're not going to get a fine for being there. If you're doing a trickle charge or something like that, but you've got plenty of charge to get home, etc., etc. Just tell us a bit about that.
So I mean, I think I would say, park and ride car parks, that's where we sort of started, because we've been able to sort of work with Transport for West Midlands as a regional partner since a while, even before COVID. And I've sort of touched on problems before, right? So it's like, people still have to find parking spaces, although they don't charge, and but equally, we sort of experienced that, where the pain in the parking has a certain level. That's why I talked earlier about pain of users, right?
Yeah.
We've done the same kind of research into the EV drivers, and we found that their pain is actually much higher because of limited infrastructure, limited reliability, and that kind of stuff. So Transport for West Midlands sort of provided us a platform very early on to develop these kind of end user focused solutions, and they can also see a practical benefit on using their infrastructure in a good way and influencing sort of good user behavior. Sort of so if you have a really busy site, or even charging site, or like park and ride car parks, we will see, depending on how you provide a service, like sort of a rock up service, then people start sort of coming earlier and earlier, and then other user groups are sort of a little bit sort of left out. And as we know, sort of cities are really inclusive and want to provide solutions to all citizens when they kind of need it. So in that case, it was about how can we provide a service that everybody can make use of, basically, in the first instance. And then, obviously, from a charge point operator, TFWM point of view, again, lots of different, targets. There's also the revenue aspect for them. So if they install a charge point in a location, whether it's a slow charger or a more rapid charger, basically, then they're only installing a location where it can provide the biggest return of investment. So you have park and ride car parks, which are close to business locations, at the train stations or a residence, which don't have access to off-street parking. So that essentially can provide a combination of, okay, that can be used by a commuter, it can be used by a logistics or like a van type user, or it could be used by a resident overnight, because that's where you then make your infrastructure, sweat the best, basically, you would say. So, and that's where we kind of started this kind of commuter experience at first. Okay, I want to have the assurance that I can get to my train on time, and when I rock up to the car park, that I got my parking space or EV charger, ready for me to receive me. So we're talking about, a numbered parking or charging bay, and reserve and charge obviously is about the charging bay. So if you would make a reservation via, at the moment, the saver space up, essentially, you get a numbered charger. Numbers are quite clear on the charger to make it user friendly. Drive into your space, plug in, and then just press one button in the app to start your charging, basically. Because the charger is prepared for you. They know that you're coming, so it's not like that you have to wait for the charger. The charger is waiting for you. That's how we say it.
That's always good. But what? Right. So I've got a question for you then, because there's something I want to come back to in a minute. But there's something that you just got me thinking about. So you've got a charger that's reserved, and we had this in France when we were on holiday.
Yeah.
We rocked up to a charger, and it was allowing us, to we had an issue with we couldn't initiate it. There was an error on the charger, but if you've got somebody else who rocks up to that charger, how do they know that person, has? So they might come 2 minutes earlier, but how do they know that charger's reserved? Because you've only got a space, haven't you? And they're going to get out the car and they're going to plug theirs in, or will they get that far?
Yeah, so don't want to get too technical right now.
No, that's fine. I get you.
I'm trying to, from a user experience, point of view, is we're taking care of locking the charger for the user who made the reservation, basically. Now, there's all sorts of questions you come around that one, but we sort of developed it in a way that fits to the charger speed, is configurable. We work it out with the client what the locking times are. There are things like, what happens when people don't arrive at the charging space, But I had a very interesting discussion with a German influencer, EV driver influencer in one of the events in Berlin. And there are some obviously reservation solutions out there. Mostly it's something called Reserve Now at the moment. So where you, on the press of the button, get a charger locked for 15 minutes. And, where this is enabled, there's not a lot of signage sometimes at the charger. So he found it quite annoying that as a non-reservation user, you rock up and then it looks like if the charger's out of service, basically. So he quite, he said, obviously it needs to go along with some signage that this charger is reservable.
Yes.
And then from our experience, if the user learns about that service, then they could actually decide to also, make a reservation. It's a bit of a self-fulfilling prophecy, where it's not so common at the moment. if it was available, we could actually convert users quite easily if they wanted to make reservations, basically. So yeah, it's a combination of locking the charger for the specific user at the right time, which fits to the scenario in that case, configuring that in the platform, and then managing it from our side for the kind of edge cases, like where maybe a charger is iced, or somebody stays longer than they're supposed to be, and then helping people to find alternatives, basically. So, and that's how our parking reservation service now works since more than 2 years, and so we know how often that might happen, and we know how to help the user. And if you look carefully around, any type of reservation solution will not technically guarantee a space. It will guarantee you to get the money back if the reservation fails, basically.
Right.
So,
I mean, that kind of makes sense, and I like what you said earlier on as well. This is what I want to come back to about encouraging good user behaviour, because that is one of the things, isn't it? And I'm not just saying this isn't just for charging, even just parking and things like that. And because I've reserved parking spaces myself, not to do with charging, but I reserved parking before just so that I know that I've got a space, because like you say, that kind of level of, oh my God, I'm going to go to this place and it's going to be ridiculous. So it's like Wednesday, we were thinking about driving up to Oxford, which to me is only 35 minutes away, but I know what the parking's like in Oxford, so, but the train is dead easy, so I'm going up on the train. It's things like that, isn't it? You kind of like, right, you go through various scenarios. We'll do this, do that, how will it work, blah 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 blah, and my husband suggested the kind of the park and ride up in Oxford, but even I've kind of just said, no, look, we're going on the train. I don't know what time I'm going to be coming back. I don't really want, I don't know whether it'll be dark. It's getting darker earlier, isn't it now? It's just one of those things. It's just like, flipping heck, so you have to kind of think about it that way. But I do like the fact that you are using the good user behaviour ideas as part of this, because this is what it's about, isn't it? It's about encouraging people to do the right thing and behave in the right way, not to ice, not to do this, not to do that,
And as you mentioned it, I mean, it was quite prevalent as well from the Transport for West Midlands. Like, again, you want people to think, how long do I stay on that charger? Sort of. And there's obviously a scenario where people, might plug in the car, charge for 2 hours, and then they stay in the space for 10 hours, right? And they're not charging for 8 hours, and that's a bit sort of, let's call it a bit extreme, what I'm just saying right now, because looking at the actual charging data in the West Midlands, you can see quite a good correlation between the length of the charge and the amount of charge they've been taken, right? So, and again, it's really complex again, because you could have a car with a 40 kilowatt batteries and a car with 60 or 80 kilowatt batteries, and depending on that, you charge more or less, also what the battery charging state is. But what's important is that you provide some incentives to the user, some support of the user on how to use that infrastructure well, and help the charge point operator to kind of incentivize that one. So in the West Midlands, we came up with a scenario now specifically, obviously tailored to that park and ride, where you would have a time-based reservation fee, like you would pay a time-based parking fee. Right?
Yes.
So
yeah.
And they would need to pay it up front, basically. So they would think a moment, how long am I staying on the charger, and try to book the optimal time. And if they were not charging the full reservation session, they're kind of allowed to be on there. Again, it's a slow charger. So other, rapid chargers might have different types of, configurations where you really just allowed to stay there for an hour, and then some sort of overstay type scenarios start working. But in that case, basically, if they would stop charging, then a time-based fee would keep going, basically, right? So, just to make sure, we're not there to penalize people, It's about, good charging behavior. And in the case of Transport for West Midlands, that they're also not in the spirit of penalizing people, you know what I mean? So it's been set up in a way that there's an incentive for people to use it in the right way, basically. So,
But that's the best thing, isn't it? Because, unless you, I suppose, right, in my mind, that's about ground rules. It's with anything. It's like having children, isn't it? You have to put your
yeah,
ground rules down. And I'm not
yeah,
saying that all public, general public are children. I'm just saying, putting those ground rules down and this is how this works is
yeah,
the best way to start, because actually you are setting a standard then, aren't you?
yeah,
So you've got your standard. This is what we want. We're not here to penalise you, as you're saying, but these are the things that we expect as part of use of this, of your
yes,
service.
yeah,
So to
yeah,
me,
yeah.
that's setting a standard, setting that kind of the ground rules, and people understand, don't they?
They do understand, and we could see it on our sort of more than 7,000 reservations on the park and ride car parks. Well, actually, overall, it was more than 20,000, but since we
Wow.
started the commercial part of that one, it was more than 7,000 on the parking side. We're ramping up the EV side right now. So, and you can see that, the way we designed this service is also being sort of user-friendly. So if people have problems, they can report a problem like a blocked space or a blocked charger. We'll try to help them already in the app, basically. But if that doesn't work and they have another, problem, they can write to someone or speak to someone in that case. And all the conversations that we had with users when there are problems are usually quite positive. And when they're being helped, basically, so if they know there is someone, it's another sort of cognitive load of your mind. It's like, oh, there's someone there who can help me. Normally I rock up to this place and then I'm in the middle of nowhere and I don't know what to do, you know what I mean? So I obviously we can't help internet connectivity. That's not the thing, but on the sites that we are deployed, in the city, people are usually appreciative of help offered, so it's really good.
Sometimes that's all people want, isn't it? They don't just want to be left, on their own, and kind of gone are the days of sort of like having people in car parks actually going around and helping people. So if if there's a little bit of help, that's all.
Yeah,
To me, that's a really good thing, because that helps you with your reputation, because that's the other thing, isn't it? It's about building your reputation as an organisation that's supportive.
yeah, and if you work with cities, I mean, their focus is the citizen and the experience of the services provided. And that really helps, to provide something that, cities can support. That they're very sensitive. I just this morning I read completely unrelated, still mobility, but the shutdown of the Lime scooters in London Borough, right? So, again, it seemed like that the council deemed that wasn't so customer friendly. So yeah, if it needs to be provided in the right way that citizens can use services, basically. And again, infrastructure or charging infrastructure is maybe not as easy to use yet as it's supposed to be. So
And I do like the fact that you start with the customer first.
yeah, we always did. So we kept that, but you do have to. You do have to be clear. I mean, the solution we provide is obviously the customer, the direct customer, is a CPO,
Yeah.
is an EMSP. Although EMSPs actually understand the aspect of user experience quite well, because they kind of own the groups of users on their apps, which we talked earlier about a little bit. But yeah, it needs to work for the CPO. It needs to have the effects of, are the users using my infrastructure in the best possible way, and I guarantee my return of invest. People not turning up for 10 hours is not, not conductive to a good charging infrastructure, basically.
Yeah, because
so you have to manage that one for all sides involved. So
I mean, the CPO wants their return on investment, like you say. They want an increase in utilisation, So, and that's we all know that. Like I say, the thing that I like about yours is how you are supporting the end user. So you've thought about the customer, but you've also thought about the end user. Because I've got to point out, you are an EV driver as well, aren't you?
I am, yes, for sure. I tested the ins and outs of everywhere, like many people do in the industry, and you can see on LinkedIn. So whether I go to Cornwall, up to the Midlands, and due to my background, my history or whatever, my upbringing, I'm obviously from Germany, so there's still family over there, and at least once per year we tend to drive the whole way to Berlin. So it gives a great opportunity to test the whole European charging infrastructure, and it's whatever I can test in the cities and things like that, I do. And it's quite funny, some of the things which been mentioned in the conference a couple of weeks ago in Berlin, like sort of restrictions in the city center. If we go to a 22 kilowatt charger, and it says you have to be back in 4 hours, but you're like, well, I need more than 4 hours,
Yeah.
So if you could make a reservation there for the time that you need it, you know what I mean? So then that would be a manageable but flexible, user-centered, situation, basically. So those are the kind of things I'm trying to look at and to learn. Another really funny experience when we last time set off in the summer to a holiday in Austria. And I do like Tesla chargers, I have to admit, because they're usually, accessible, available, and functioning, and it's quite easy to use the app as well. But, navigating the different locations of the chargers is not always easy. And we had a roof box on the car. And, came somewhere in France, I think around Lille or whatever it was. And, at a sort of shopping mall where the chargers were installed, not just Tesla, all sorts of chargers. But they had a height restriction with sort of metal barriers over the top. You couldn't get to the chargers because, with the roof box on top, you couldn't actually go in, although it's a huge area with lots of car parking and so on, So, so you still get these kind of, experiences because, a petrol station looks always everywhere the same. But the chargers, they're all different, fragmented, different locations. Well, I'm not saying that's a negative thing. I'm saying it provides, actually, it's quite nice instead of going to a smelly petrol station.
God, yeah.
Driving up to a shopping center, with the whole family, get the people out of the car, walk around while the car is charging. I think that's one of the, best experience I can get from EV charging, So
we had our very first underground EV charging experience while we were in northern Spain for a holiday, and it was a charging hub in an underground car park, and I can't remember. I think there was a car rental firm, so there were two lots of chargers, and they were all. I think they were I think they were 22 kilowatt, but we knew we were going to be there a little while because we were going to see some friends in the city. But that was an interesting one because you just kind of, I don't know why, maybe it's because we don't tend to have them, or I haven't seen them in the UK, but that was really interesting. And just, we always use Octopus Electroverse because it works for us. But it worked first time. It was just a different place to have the chargers, and there was quite a few places there. And it was funny where we went to different locations to charge, because we need to charge our car more often than some people, even though we had decent temperatures, but sometimes we couldn't. We were both, me and my husband both said our bladders gave up before our car needed.
Yeah,
So actually, it was I'm not saying gave up like that, but it was just one of those things. But we had lots and lots of different experiences this time. The underground one was great. In fact, most of the charging experiences were really, really good. I think there was one that we had that was in a remote location, and we were next to a Tesla on a separate one, a slower charger, because we were going to be there for some time, and it wouldn't initiate. So that was it. That was the only kind of issue that we had. But yeah, you do have to plan, and you do want to do these things. And yes, we didn't reserve the chargers, but actually, if we'd have been going into a really, really busy city centre, because we could kind of see which ones were available, and because I suppose sometimes when there's two of you in the car, it makes it a little bit easier because you can kind of see which ones are available, and if they're all available. But sometimes it doesn't always. It depends how quickly the back office updates to see whether they are. So I totally get it with regards to reserving, because you do want to know that charger's available. It makes a massive difference, doesn't it?
Or even if it then, if there's really a problem, which we think is sort of a low percentage really, then, having a channel where you can get the help to find an alternative one.
Yes.
Peace of mind, basically, that what we think sort of helps. We've seen it with the Cyberspace users and how that works for them, basically. And one thing which is quite important, what I was speaking to some of one of our EMSP partners, hopefully going forward, is that when we see people making reservations, they do it again and again, basically. So there are those scenarios, like as you said, park and ride car parks or city centres, where people travel regularly. If they have an experience that works for them, they will repeat the behaviour, basically. So from our early parking reservations, basically, we've seen that we've got a user who's done over a year, like more than 200 reservations.
That level of comfort for that person, isn't it? For those users that use it regularly, it's that level of comfort, like you said right at the beginning. It's taking that stress away from that person, and that in itself, you don't want additional stress, do you? So that person's coming back again and again because they know that they can use you, and it works. So that's good.
Yeah, because it starts to become a reliable experience rather than sort of thinking, if I get there, is the space for me, or I arrive 5 minutes later. And again, it depends on how the operator wants to set up the service. Some might be more towards stronger incentives for users to behave or to use the infrastructure in the right way. But then some are more like Transport for West Midlands. I'm not saying that they don't want to provide an incentive, but they make sure. So if our users will come 5 minutes earlier, the charger is there for them. If they come 5 minutes later, the charger is there for them. You know what I mean? So it's also how to design the service that, this kind of conscious load is as low as possible. The stress is as low as possible, basically. So, and listening to some of the industry research which starts happening now around reservations, we had the Energy Saving Trust, I think, presentations few weeks ago, basically, where one of the charge point operators kind of mentioned how complicated it could be to implement a reservation service on street, which I kind of agree with. It's complex, maybe not complicated, but complex, and you have to work with the city around the enforcement, making sure that you have the signage and that kind of stuff. But exactly that's what we've done in the West Midlands, to provide this type of complete setup, basically. So you have a technical solution, and we have it as an API, can be integrated into every app. But there's still different scenarios that need to be then looked at from the end-to-end customer experience.
No, it's like you say, that level of comfort is good, and you're getting good feedback from people as
Oh
well
yes,
anyway, aren't you?
yeah. So I mean, I think it's funny because you think about those services, and you know what your commercial impact is you're aiming at basically, but then seeing how people use it, and how you have to then sort of iteratively potentially adapt it, but it provides you with a solution which then works for everybody involved, which is really nice to see. It need to listen to the user feedback, so, and the industry has been preaching that one, so for sure, so
Yeah. So I'm going to finish on a question, final
yeah,
question.
that's all right. Yeah.
So, what would you like the EV charging experience to be like in the next 10 years, and where would you like to see reserve and charge in that future?
Yeah, so I think I would like to see the sort of potential of all those kind of technical solutions realized. And we're not just talking about reservations. We're talking about vehicle to grid scenarios, which are now also already sort of coming live at the home, but that needs to roll out to everywhere, so that again people are not disincentivized, or I don't know the English term right now, but sort of that they cannot use this type of services because they don't have a home charger, basically. So and so I like those technical things to come through to the user in a way that makes it easy to use for them. So I'm hoping that our reserve and charge, well, our vision is that reserve and charge, plays a part in that one, and with this notion of a reservation for an end user, and the knowledge for the operator that when people come, and then sort of the link into the energy providers, we can come up with scenarios where users can charge for a reasonable fee, possibly take a home contract to a charger of their choice, or in some formal way provided by the city or whatever, so that this kind of inequality is not a thing for people who don't have off-street parking.
Yeah.
And if I wanted to paint a little bit of a picture, sort of like where reserve and charge would want to go to, obviously with all the advent of AI and these types of things, there's huge opportunities to even basically further reduce that cognitive load. So instead of me deciding when do I need to charge the car, something could tell you, like on Friday is really busy. Why do you not go charging on Thursday? And by the way, it's sustainable energy, so you can get like 20% off. And I know that those similar type of scenarios can exist with Octopus Electroverse, but I don't think it's yet as integrated and easy for the user to kind of forget about the charging experience, or be helped to make that kind of planning decisions. So that's where I hope this is going. So
Yeah, like it.
Mhm.
Well, I look forward to kind of meeting you at one of these very many future events that we're both going to. So
Plentiful, many.
it is event season, isn't it, for the sector? But look, it's been lovely
Yeah.
to talk to you. It really has.
Yes. Yeah, great,
I
Liz.
hope everybody's kind of who's watching and listening. I hope you've got a lot out of this, because he's Ralph and the team are looking at it from a really good angle, and I kind of I like this. It's it kind of calls to my customer experience, sort of that side of me. So yeah, thank you,
Yes.
thank
Thanks,
you for
Liz.
doing
Yeah. And you can hold us accountable in the future then, if we.
it. Oh, what, give you 20 lashes? No, we wouldn't do
Yes,
that.
yes. This
Oh,
customer experience is not how we.
hey, I just no. It'd be good to see how it all starts. When you start moving forward with things. So on that
Yeah.
note, I'm going to say thank you. I'm going to say to
Yeah.
everybody watching and listening, please like, subscribe, and share. Go to
Yeah.
our LinkedIn podcast page, so Electric Evolution on LinkedIn. We share all of these, but please just share the story. It would be great.
Yes. Yeah, and if you want to try it out, give us a shout. We'll be happy to demonstrate in the West Midlands.
Exactly. And I was going to say he's a poet and he doesn't know it.
All right, yeah.
On that note, I'm going to say thank you for watching and listening, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye. Thanks for watching Electric Evolution with Liz Allan. If you've enjoyed this episode, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. If you're a charge point operator, local authority or stakeholder in EV charging, I'd love to talk to you about our Charge Point Evolution framework. It's designed to help you create a seamless EV driver journey, boost utilisation and maximise your return on investment. Alternatively, if you know someone who'd be a great podcast guest or might be interested in sponsoring an episode, you can email me on liz@fullcircleci.co.uk. Thanks again for watching.